Agent down. Rogue explosive system mine detected. Rogue defender drone detected.
You call that headshot, bro. That shit unlocked. One coming to your left.
Huh.
Bro, how are you jumping these dudes before me, bro? Like, what the hell?
Oh, they're coming up behind you, bro.
Vital signs critical.
Bro.
The enemy can't keep up. They're about to get pulled out.
Rogue artillery turret detected.
Really? Too early for that shit, bro.
Bruh.
Bro, that's just ridiculous, bro. Too early to switch to that shit, bro.
There's no pulling out. Keep fighting. There are no more rogue reinforcements.
So you guys saw that this build is an absolute monster, and when I make conflict builds or when I play with conflict builds, I need builds to actually perform either solo or in group play when playing conflict. You guys know that a lot of the stats are maxed out to a certain level, right? So they don't go past certain caps, and it's just the way conflict works. So when you guys make builds, you guys just got to really pay attention to that, and also make sure you guys have your PvP settings on when you're creating those. But I'm telling you guys, with this build sitting at 1.7 million, I wasn't sure if I was going to have enough DPS, but this build, as you guys saw at the beginning of the video, the gameplay, we were melting. And even in this short gameplay that I'm showing you guys right here before we do the build breakdown, we're melting even more. So that's what's actually pretty impressive about this. The damage is there, and it's all because of the way we have this build spec'd out and the way we have the talents working together, the skills working together. And you guys are going to see in just a second how I have this build broken down and why 1.7 million armor, if played right, works really well. So let's get into the build. So the build we are running, we are going to be using the firewall specialization for a couple benefits, the armor kit, the extra perks that it does have, but that is a specialization we are using for this one. We are sitting at 1.7 million armor. Yes, I said at 1.7 million armor. That's 5 blues, 1 red. And you're gonna see how much damage we're still able to do, as you guys were seeing in the previous video, right? For the weapon, we are using the FAMAS 2010. Now this has assault rifle damage, health damage, and then I roll damage targets out of cover on it. Plus we have in sync, so hitting enemy grants 15% skill damage, but also using the skill damaging enemy grants 15% weapon damage. Now if you do this simultaneously, you're getting additional 30% extra weapon damage, which is why this build hits so hard and is so effective. Now we do have crit chance on every single slot for the mods on this, plus we have that sturdy extended 5.56 that gives us 20 extra rounds, so we're sitting at 50 rounds. The 900 RPM makes this build beautiful. For the secondary, you can pretty much run whatever you want. The FAMAS is the one that we're running with this build. So for the mask, we have a Grupo Sombra mask with 15% critical hit damage. We have armor rolled on here. We have crit chance, crit damage, and then a critical hit chance mod. Now with this build, we do have to put at least 1 critical hit chance on there mod, because we do want to make sure we get close to that 60% cap. And you'll see how much critical hit chance we have on this build. For the chest, we have a Fenris chest with assault rifle damage, armor, headshot damage, critical hit damage, and then a critical hit damage mod. Now ideally you could probably get rid of that headshot damage and put critical hit chance there, and then that allowed me to add more critical hit damage on the mask. But yeah, this is what I currently have with this one. Now we do have Intimidate right here, which has, while you have bonus armor, you amplify total weapon damage by 35% to enemies within 10 meters. And if you guys check right here, we'll put the PvP stats. It's the same for PvP. So that's why this is actually a really good talent, and it works really good with the FAMAS, as it's a really good close range weapon with high RPM and really good damage. For the holster, we're running Walker and Harris holster. So we have weapon damage, and then we have damage to armor, because we are running a 2-piece. Now this is actually gonna be really good with this build, because when you have builds that have high armor and you have damage to armor stacked on them, they tend to perform really well. So we have armor on this one, we have critical hit chance, and we have critical hit damage. For the knee pads, we have the Fox Parry knee pads, which give us armor. We have that multiplicative damage to targets out of cover, 8%, and then we have the 12% critical hit damage. Then we have the named Petrov gloves for the contractor gloves, and as you guys know, we tend to use these named gloves because they have multiplicative attributes. Like we have the 170,000 armor, then we have the multiplicative 8% damage to armor, and then we have the 12% critical hit damage. Now, not only do we have the damage to armor here, we also have the damage to armor on the 2-piece Walker and Harris, so we're getting a lot more with this build. And then for the backpack, we have the second piece of Walker and Harris. We have weapon damage, critical hit chance, critical hit damage, and then critical hit damage mod. Now, when you are PvPing with this, Perfect Adrenaline Rush gives you, whenever you're within 10 meters, you gain 12% bonus armor for 5 seconds. Now, this does stack up to 3 times. Now, if you guys weren't playing PvP with this build, it'd be 23%. So it is a big, huge cut on the PvP side. But yeah, 12% still is enough to allow you to at least get some of those shots off with Intimidate. And since you're at 1.7 million armor, you're pretty much of a tank. So that's why this is actually a really good setup, and how I enjoy running this build when I do tend to run this in conflict. So if you look at the stats, we have 48% critical hit chance, and that's what I was telling you. On the chest piece, if I could get that 6%, we could be a lot better, right? We could be sitting at almost 54% critical hit chance. Ideally, what you really want to go with. So if we can get that chest piece to have critical chance versus the headshot damage, we'll improve there. We have 154% critical hit damage. We have 82% headshot damage, 13% armor damage, 18% health damage, and then we have the 18% damage to targets out of cover. So that's why in this build, we have a ton of armor. And if you look, 1.6 million armor, well, 666, so almost 1.7. They always round it up. So 1.7 million armor, max health 332,000. And that's why with this build, you guys will definitely dominate. And it's probably one of my go-to builds when I don't want to run something like Pulse in conflict. But yeah, this is the build. This is what you saw. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, hey, nothing but skills out.